Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be going over the new Necromancer build utilizing the new Rathma set, which has actually been reworked. Plus it does have some new items. Just a heads up, the D3 planner will not show the new items as they don't currently exist in the item pool to go ahead and show off. So I will have to show you guys some of the newer things via screenshots, but I will still include it down below for those of you guys that do want it. Keep in mind, all the gameplay and footage that you guys are seeing is on the PTR, so when season 23 does hit, I'll make an updated build guide, as this build more than likely will take some sort of a nerf, as it's super powerful. I mean, if you look on the leaderboard, everyone's running pretty much the exact same build, and it is capable of doing a GR 150. So first off, let me go ahead and go over the newer items, as this is quite important to go over. So this item over here, this is a new bracer called the Bonds of Celia. The most important thing is with the secondary, Army of the Dead and Bone Spirit deal anywhere from 300 to 400% increased damage. Bone Spirit deals an additional 2% increased damage for 5 seconds each time Army of the Dead hits an enemy. Now, this build is all about Army of the Dead in terms of the gameplay and the mechanics of it. However, there will be another build that I do want to show off that does use Bone Spirit, but that won't be the best build. This is the completely new Necromancer build, as it does also have a newer change with the Rathma set, but it is definitely the best build for Necromancer as of right now. But again, things can change over on the PTR. So first off, the Bones of Rathma. This is the new rework. This is basically a completely new set, as it plays differently. So anyways, the new bonuses over here. So starting off with the 2-piece bonus, your minions reduce the cooldown of Army of the Dead by 1 second each time they deal damage. Your skeletal warriors spawn faster and your revived minions longer expire. With a 4-piece bonus, your minions no longer take damage. You gain 1% damage reduction for 15 seconds each time one of your minions deals damage. Max is 75 stacks. With the 6-piece bonus, each active minion increases the damage of Army of the Dead and Bone Spirit by 1000%. So pretty much what it comes down to is your minions aren't going to be dealing any of the damage. Remember, the Bone Spirit does not do any damage either. The only important thing is that it reduces the cooldown of Army of the Dead, but also each active minion increases it by 1000%, which is more than likely going to be changed and nerfed, because again, the build is just out of control with its potential. I mean, we're hitting for trillions of damage without any augments either. This build does so much damage. But anyways, that's basically the important things that are new that I did want to go over first. Now, let me go ahead and go over the gear. Now, again, keep in mind that the D3 planner will not reflect the new Rathmas. However, you still want the exact same rolls on it, which are pretty much just going to be your crit hit chance and cooldown reduction where you can get it. You can also get area damage as well. But again, it will not show the bonuses. This is showing the old bonuses because, again, this is over on the PTR for season 23, which obviously we don't have yet. We're just on the PTR. I'll also show you guys multiple different builds, and I'll link them down below just in case I go too fast with any of the things that I talk about. But anyways, let's go ahead and hop right into the skills and how it kind of plays, and I'll go over all the pieces of gear and what you can kind of swap in and out, as a lot of people are trying out other things because it's PTR right now, but I want to give you guys gameplay of it ASAP. So first off, in terms of the skills that we're going to be using. So we're going to be using Bone Armor. I should actually go over this first. Going over Nayer's Black Death, we want a bunch of different poison skills just to be active to keep up that 4 stack, because each different poison skill we use increases the damage of our poison skills by 100%. So we want to have as many poison skills as possible that kind of just add to our build. So Bone Armor over here will also stun the enemies, which can proc Crispins. It's really only good for elites. You don't want to cast it every single time unless you're doing like low GRs, and just by all means just activate it whenever you want. But specifically when you're trying to push higher GRs, you do definitely want to activate this at more important intervals when your convention is on the correct rotation, which is another item that we'll go over later. But Bone Armor, Dislocation for the Poison Rune, and then this is where we get all of our damage, Army of the Dead. So it just does a massive amount of damage, and you also get the unconventional rune. In addition, you want the Poison rune when you equip it, but you also get another bonus here, which I'll mention later. Skeleton Mage, just for the poison, plus remember, anytime that you have another minion, you're dealing extra damage, and every single time that they are hitting, you're reducing the cooldown of your Army of the Dead. And then we have Revive. This one can actually be used a few different ways. A lot of people are kind of experimenting with the rune. Some people are running personal army for extra damage return, extra damage reduction, choose whatever one that you really want. You can run horrific return just because it is poison, but I have seen people on the leaderboard run personal army. I figured I'd go ahead and mention that. But you do enough damage anyways, so if you want to swap that out, but revive over here because it is poison. And then we have Grim Scythe. This one you want Curse Scythe because it is poison, and this one you will be activating quite frequently, as you do need some source of regeneration. However, you can run, if you're doing like speeds, like right on the gameplay in the background, you guys are seeing speed 100s. So Dark Reaping allows us to not have to use Grim Scythe other than to proc our Nayer's Black Death one time, and then pretty much, if you play like any Tal Rasha build, you don't have to use the same skill over and over again, and you can basically refresh it with other skills. But you want to try to keep the proc of the Nayer's Black Death as much as you can. Plus, it does help out technically against like elites and stuff, but it's your resource generation. And then Command Skeletons, you want to make sure this is active at pretty much all times, as your Jatheth's 2-piece bonus will increase the amount of damage. As long as your skeletons are commanded to attack a target, we just deal a massive amount of bonus damage. So that's why that's there. Now for our passives, the ones that are required are going to be Final Service and Rathma Shield in pretty much every build. If you're doing speeds, I think Swift Harvesting and Dark Reaping are great. This just lets you go ahead and curse the target again. Proccing Nayer's Black Death and also increasing the attack speed of it is really nice, just to be able to be a little bit faster. However, you can run other things like Commander of the Risen Dead, which reduces the essence cost of your command skeletons. That's the only thing that matters because we don't run Golem here. And then you can also run Extended Servitude, which increases the duration of the Skeletal Mage and the Revive, but Revive lasts forever anyway, so it doesn't really matter. It's just so you can have extra duration on the Skeletal Mage, pretty much. But yeah, the other two totally swappable. I've seen lots of people run tons of different things, but these are the ones that I would say are going to be... Actually, Rathma Shield is 1000% required. This one, most people are running. It's kind of a cheat death, and so I think it's great for that. So inside of the cube, I already mentioned we have Nayer's Black Death, and then on top of that, we have Fate's Vow. This grants extra damage to Army of the Dead, and also grants us the extra rune on the Army of the Dead. And then with Royal Ring of Grandeur, you're going to want this. You can also run Convention of Elements, Crispin Sentence. Any of these can kind of be swapped in and out, whatever you want to go ahead and cube. But keep in mind that Royal Ring of Grandeur will always roll with that attack speed. But you definitely want to get cooldown reduction on every single piece of gear, as if your Army of the Dead is not being able to be activated fast enough, you will just instantly die, because this build doesn't really have that much priority in survivability, because you are completely immune to damage as long as you actively have Rathma Shield up 100% of the time, which is not too difficult to do. It's sometimes where there's a gap where there's no enemies and you walk into like a pool of blood and it just does that like damage over time and you walk over it. Those are like the only times where it won't be active, when there's not enough enemies. But most of the times now with the update with the Greater Rifts, there's enough density to make it a-okay. But in terms of the gems, we're running the Zeiss Stones of Vengeance, Bane of the Trapped, and the Gogok's Swiftness. You can definitely run Bane of the Stricken if you're pushing for higher GRs, just like you would with any build and you drop Zeiss, but those are the only real differences here. But in terms of the pieces of gear, they're pretty much the same across the board. So again, remember, you want the newer rare bracers that I can't show you inside the planner, but it is these ones over here, the Bonds of Celia over here, which just grants you extra damage of Army of the Dead. So since we don't take any damage, Scorched Necklace is excellent here. I'll mention the important things that you're trying to look for on the pieces of gear, but in this build, you don't really need to prioritize getting any defensive stats, as you are immune to damage. So you want to have the Poison Elemental roll on it, because that's our source of damage, crit hit chance, crit hit damage. And then for the helm, the only thing that's important is getting that main stat plus the crit hit chance. And then for the shoulders, you can get that area damage cooldown. You can also get the reduction of resource costs on some of the pieces of gear. If it just rolls it, it's like totally fine, because you want to be able to make sure you keep up just that set bonus, as again, you're going to be immune to damage completely with this build. If you want to, you can get life instead, because again, there are some certain times where it won't be up 100% of the time, but it's not really something that you should worry about too much in terms of defensive stats. So there's not really any use for, again, anything specific on the armor piece over here, but just on the bracers, the important thing is obviously Selena is what you want to be running, but crit hit chance and then that poison damage elemental bonus. And then for our gloves, we want crit hit chance, crit damage cooldown. You can get whatever you want, but the most important thing is really getting that reduction of cooldown on almost every single piece of gear except for like the amulet. So same thing with Crispin's, you get the cooldown reduction, and then you get the crit chance is great. And then you can roll off eventually once you start getting enough paragons to roll off the main stat, just like you can in most Diablo builds anyways. But this just helps us grant us extra damage once they are controlled by another impaired effect. And then we're running also the Captain set over here since we have the Royal Ring of Grandeur. That just gives us extra cooldown reduction. At the end of the day, that's the only thing that really matters here. And then Convention of Elements, just like you would see in most Diablo builds. But if you're running it lower, you know, speed runs, you can run things like whatever that you want to run, to be honest. You can run Zodiac, you can run the Stone of Jordan, but if you want to push the highest GRs, you're going to have to time your Convention of Elements cycle, just like you would with most Diablo builds. And then we're running the Jaceth's set over here. Most important thing is getting that cooldown reduction. Again, you want to make sure you're able to activate Army of the Dead, as that's the main way that you are able to survive. But if you can also get some extra like damage on, you know, your scythe or attack speed, whatever the case may be, that's fine too. You just don't really need the defensive stats. For the boots, nothing important, as you're not going to be rolling like plus bonus to damage on a certain one for like the boots of the helm like you would with some Diablo builds. And then for the shield over here, we obviously need to run the Jaceth's, and this one is super hard to get to roll everything correctly, but the most important thing is getting cooldown and crit hit chance. Those are the things that shouldn't be too difficult to roll, just ideally getting those. But if you can also get extra damage against elites and damage reduction against elites, that would be awesome as well. But again, don't worry too much about defensive stats in this, as they're not high on the priority list. But that's going to pretty much sum up the build. I do plan to make a Bone Spirit build because, again, with the newer editions of this, it technically is supposed to support Bone Spirit as well, but the best build doesn't actually utilize it at all, which is kind of unfortunate, but we'll have to wait to see if things do get changed. Oh, gems, important. So we want to run all the things that are going to actually support damage, so more intelligence is definitely what we're looking forward to, and then cooldown reduction in the helm. So that's going to wrap up things for the build. But yeah, like I said, I do plan to make a Bone Spirit build, so if you guys are new here and you want to see like a completely new build with this one, I definitely plan to upload it later down the line. So if you guys want to see that, if you're new, subscribe, turn that bell, and you'll definitely see it very soon, as it's kind of like next thing I want to actually do. I actually just already uploaded the new wizard build, which is basically like a FireBird Talrasha that's like a laser beam build. It's kind of interesting, but I'll include the D3 planners, but keep in mind, you make sure you guys get the correct bracers here, as this I can't show you on here, but the set has been updated. It's a new set for a new rework coming out in Season 23. But thanks for tuning in, guys. If you enjoyed the video, drop a like on it, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Have a good one, and I'm signing out. Peace.